I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days our lawmakers too. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, citizens united we stand, divided we fail. But today, it's a beautiful day in Joe Biden's neighborhood. The United States now officially under new management. Gone is you-know-who, and our 4-year stroll alongside President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Vice-President Kamala Harris has begun. We wish the new administration well. Let's get started. It's Halli and Matt time. Here we go. Welcome, my friends. It's January 22nd, 2021, and it is a beautiful day in Joe Biden's neighborhood. Gone is you-know-who. So let's begin on that positive note. Matt, your thoughts as we begin our 4-year stroll through Joseph Robinette. By the way, isn't that a great name, Robinette Biden Jr.'s neighborhood? We begin, set the stage. What are we in for?
What are we in for 4 years?
What's your feeling at the beginning of all of this?
Well, I think like all inaugurations, it's hopeful and probably much more now after what preceded it. Both the Trump 4 years and the shocking events of this month. I mean, by contrast, it was welcome. It was unifying. It was a very strong speech, and a great event, and they pulled it off well and safely. So it's he's off to a very good start. But as the cliche goes, now for the hard part. Governing's easier than throwing a party, and now he's got to do it. And that we'll see.
I have to tell you, and I really thought about this. We need to talk feelings here, because I cannot tell you how many phone calls that I got from friends, all who are very into the political realm, like you and I are just obsessed. But what I heard that all day that day and all evening that evening was, I don't know what to feel. I don't know if I can trust feeling great. I'm not sure I feel great. I feel relieved. I feel scared. There was nobody trusted themselves that this reality was actually happening, that who was off the stage, and this, person of normalcy, if you will, the normal, was coming in. Did you get any of that? Did you feel any of that? I did. I was a wreck that day, by the way.
Yeah, well, I think, like kids with an abusive parent, even if the abuse stops or they've gone into foster care, there's a lot of trauma that goes with it. And I think it's hard for people to just sort of let their guard down. I mean, look, 75 million people voted for Trump, so they're, not all of them enthusiastically, but he had a lot of support, and, that doesn't change. For those who didn't vote for him and have been really upset about the events of the last 4 years, it's understandable that you wouldn't feel totally at ease, in the first 48 hours.
Yeah.
Of the Biden years. It's gonna take a while, but I think, people are sort of like saying, oh, it's refreshingly normal to have a press conference, and it's normal to see Fauci, speak in a way that's uninhibited, and all the executive orders were checked for their legality before, instead of written on like Stephen Miller's napkin,
with a Sharpie.
With the Sharpie. So it's, I think
you're describing post-traumatic stress disorder. Of course, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So it's post-traumatic stress disorder, I think, that this country is suffering from.
Right.
And that's really kind of a scary thing, to think that we were that beaten up by this one person. Extraordinary, just extraordinary. It's interesting. It was an amazing production from beginning to end, under the circumstances even. Think about it. Wow. When Biden got out of the car, even though he was right at, the White House, and even though that had been cordoned off and what have you, I was talking to a friend who absolutely started to shake, quiver, cry. Oh my God, he's going to get killed. That's the world we're in right now. And
well, sure.
That's upsetting. That's totally, crazily, whatever. But, but where are we? We're at a battle between hope and fear, right? I think that's where we are. And that's kind of where we were at the beginning of Obama. Will we be able to write off these last 4 years at some point, like whitewash them, they're gone? Or are they going to permeate everything for the next 4 years as well? What are your thoughts on that? Had you thought about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a while. I think the problem is that the country's problems don't end with Trump, I mean, we're in the extraordinary circumstance of the pandemic and all the economic fallout that comes from that. And that's a huge deal. And, that didn't just end.
Right. And we're going to talk in a minute about just how it didn't end, because we're going to talk about some of those Republicans who were wacko, who remain.
People are going to be jumpy for a while. I think the jumpiness will subside. I think this sort of general sense of fear and malaise won't.
One of the moments that really, of course, I think touched a lot of Americans were the presidents together. That was a stroke of genius.
Yes, I think it was. I mean, it's authentic and socially distant, and they sort of like, there's a certain genuine affection between them that came through, and a common disdain for Trump that came through, and I think it was a very helpful moment.
I have to tell you that George W. Bush looks terrible.
Well, he definitely is, starting to show his age, because he'd always looked, preternaturally youthful.
Right.
And
he doesn't look well, though. He really doesn't look well. I was shocked at how bad he looked, and compared to the other two, actually Obama, other than the gray hair, never seems to age at all. Didn't have a line in his face. And Clinton looks terrific considering all he's been through too. But yeah, that concerned me because he didn't look well at all. And he doesn't have the sparkle that he used to have. He's a grown man now, even after the presidency.
Right.
kind of a weird deal. I'm going to jump around a little bit right now because there's a lot I want to get in. I just want to say that I loved Tom Hanks. He's the man of my dreams. Next to you.
I didn't watch last night, so I confess I don't.
Okay, well, I'm sure
it was good.
Yeah, well, they produced. If you can watch a little of it, do, because because you like film like I do. It was a brilliant production. I mean, the optics of it were just holy crap, really. Like they need to win an award for it. It was that kind of, oh my God, beautifully shot. And your son will enjoy it too. But all of that against this backdrop of armed encampment, which, what's going on with that now? I mean, the troops yesterday relegated to the basement or the parking garage. What the hell?
Yeah, well, they're all starting to go home, and the barriers are being taken down, and they're deconstructing a lot of this. So,
did you feel threatened in any way?
No. I mean, you definitely had this. In my neighborhood, there weren't that many signs. I mean, there's an abundance of sirens, but in terms of, there were no troops and no road blockages or anything. No, I mean, that's gonna evaporate.
Yeah,
for the most part. I mean, obviously, a renewed security at the Capitol and other sites like that, but not a huge change here, I think. And by the time we get 2 weeks from now. So
we have a first woman of color vice president. That's pretty extraordinary. We have, I didn't realize this, I thought Schumer had been majority leader once before. My brain may be frying, but first Jew to be the majority leader, to me, that's a bigger deal than Kamala, because we've had a Jewish, a black president. But the sweetest thing in the whole thing, I don't know if you know about this, is Joe gave Jill a corsage, a wrist corsage. Did you know about that?
I don't think I knew that.
And she was wearing it. They were like the couple at the prom that they never got to go to in the first place.
Right.
You know, just that. At one point, she put her head on his. They were standing before the Lincoln Memorial, I think, and she put her head on his chest. That's a great image to be sent to Americans.
Right.
Who's, after what we saw for the last 4 years, I just needed to make mention of that. I know it's girly, but it was lovely. It was truly a moment. But as we go through this process of looking at what happened and going through the steps, so as he, and I really at this point want everybody to stop using his name for a while at least, because I think it really will help quicken the process of moving forward. Can't do it all the time, obviously. But you did see him at the airplane hangar, right? As he gave his little goodbye speech. And I want to talk about that because I thought that was maybe one of the most telling things he's ever done. What were your thoughts?
Well, it was typical of him. You always hope, you always fear it's going to be worse. And it could have been worse for him.
Well, it's interesting.
I mean, in general, I don't like the custom. I mean, Obama gave a big talk with a bigger crowd at Andrews right before he took off in 2017. In general, I think the outgoing president ought to just get out of town.
Yeah, really, right?
Even speaking that morning is sort of untoward. Look, I mean, it was great. It was Trump, right? I mean, they played My Ways.
That
one took off.
That was a joke. That actually didn't help him at all. It made him look like an ass. But hey, here's what I wanted to say about it, because I went back and I looked at the tape. I can't find anywhere that any reporter made note of this, but he choked up. He had to stop speaking because he was on the verge of tears. Did you notice that?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, take a look at the footage. I mean, it wasn't just a brief. He had to be quiet for a good 30 seconds, if not more. He didn't well up in the eyes. He welled up in the throat.
Yeah.
And that may have been his most human moment. And all the time that man has ever been on the public stage.
That's not been his thing.
Right. And it just struck me that nobody made mention of it. Not so much as a word. But before we can let him get even that 1 second of maybe there is a human inside of that weird body of his, the pardons. I'm going to let you take that, because if I get going on that one, I'm gonna absolutely talk to me. Did he not abuse the power of the pardon, if it can be abused?
Well, that's the question, right? Can it be abused? I mean, yeah, he obviously let a lot of cronies go, and a lot of just sort of Republican corrupt congressmen who weren't cronies, but just wanted pardons. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of worthy pardons in this last tranche. Drug dealers, and some guy operated an illegal still, and they weren't all bad, but there was a lot of bad, and then there were a lot of awful ones. I think the expectation was so high that he might pardon his whole family and himself that the fact that he didn't sort of took a little edge off it.
I don't know. I was so horrified by the Steve Bannon, who hasn't been convicted, so that was weird to me.
Yeah, well, neither Nixon. I mean, it's you can do it that way, but yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
The reason that I bring it up,
especially if you leave his co-conspirators,
right,
going to trial, then
right. I may have mentioned this to you a while ago, but Homeland in its last season, and I don't actually know who wrote that series, but I have to say that they stayed pretty close to what was happening in the country and took their spin on it. And if you can watch that last season where they have a Steve Bannon character, and it'll leave you shaking as to what this man is capable of. And I tell the country, keep your eyes on Steve Bannon, because he's going to be front and center in a little bit. Not the guy, not the T-man.
Right. Well, it's possible, I guess, right?
He's got an agenda, and it's been a long agenda. Now, I did talk to a friend of mine it works in New York Southern District, who said the pardons took care of one aspect, but most of these Trump people actually can be tried on other issues, which will take that pardon business and throw it out the wall because they're all up. Right. So there is that to talk about too, or to make a point of. So we move on to what I think is now where we are, which is Biden versus McConnell and the Republicans. Anybody who thought they were going to go gently into the good night, forget about it, folks, because that's not going to happen. I said a battle between hope and fear. I think it's a battle between the Republicans oh, that's a nice sound. Are you still?
Yeah, well,
yeah, I know.
I said, there's still
I know. No, I
still
understand. We have them here, but they're taking people to hospitals for COVID here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the battle between hope and fear. America did survive. Let's start there. I don't know if it's thriving, and at what cost. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, this has been a rough period, and the COVID crisis is accelerated, and it's coming just at the time that people are having hope about the vaccines, and should be hopeful about the vaccines. The results have been very good.
Well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to go.
Once you get them in people's arms. So, yeah.
But I want to talk about whether the democracy or the republics, in what shape we're in. What shape do you think we're in?
Well, I think we're in better shape than a lot of people thought. But it's, obviously the siege of the Capitol is a deeply scarring event. And, we've got a lot of people who feel no compunction about trying to steal elections. And that's, that's really bad. That's a line that really wasn't crossed much.
But here, let me run this by you, okay? First of all, I don't think Republicans have learned their lesson. And I think a big mistake that Schumer and Pelosi are going to do if they don't demand that they learn their lesson. That's my theory on all of this. The day after McCarthy got up there and said Trump incited the riot, Graham said, I've had it. Both of those men on videotape now are rescinding what they said. Somebody's got to pay a price, or otherwise it'll happen again. And maybe not too long in the distant future. I just don't understand. I don't understand Democrats right now, to be honest with you, because I could have told you that was going to happen, that 5 seconds later, Trump was going to make a call to Graham and say, I've got the tape, you better do what I tell you to do. And McCarthy has never stood for anything in his whole entire life, as far as I can see, other than, his radical views. But they're still afraid of the T-man, number one, and you can't let them get away. Democrats always cave. They don't play bitchy enough. Does it not concern you that they're still trying to ride on this? It's going to be fine. We're all, peace, love, and understanding. Matt.
Well, we've had this conversation before. You have to look at what they can do and what's wise to do. They drove the impeachment of Trump. They didn't have to, but they did wisely, I think. And there's going to be a trial in the Senate. That's going to dominate, some of the early days of the Biden administration. That's not a small deal.
I don't think that's not going to happen. How do you like that?
You don't think there will be a trial?
I don't think there's going to be a trial. Not for a while. Let me tell you why I think that. Nancy will send over the articles of impeachment or the article of impeachment over to the Senate. And I think that what the Republicans' game plan seems to be is that they're going to, McConnell said, let's put it off to February. And so it's interesting to me, by the way, let me just say this while I have it on my mind. By saying that, one of the Republicans' arguments has been that you can't have a trial for a president who's not in office. But by saying McConnell that let's put the trial off, he's acknowledging that there will be a trial. There is a trial. There's a reason for a trial. And he's saying, no, there is a reason for a trial. So I think a good lawyer is going to say, this is what the then leader of the House, of the Senate had to say. But I think their game plan is to try and put it off as long as they possibly can. Their thought being, hey, people lose track of things very, very quickly in this country. Yesterday's news is, what? So I think there's a game, and I also think they're using it to extort the agreement between Biden and McConnell. On the filibuster, which we're going to talk in detail on in a second, and some other things. So I just think they're playing it to their advantage. Now, I can say this, see what you say. Once that footage, and you can bet it all hasn't been leaked out to the press at this point, is run in a complete 30-minute, if you will, well-produced documentary of what happened, that may freak a lot of people out because people are freaked out by the little bit that they've seen. But I think this is all a part of a game. And if they can get out of it, maybe cut a deal so that Trump has said he can't run again, they want to avoid this trial majorly. What are you thinking?
Well, it's possible. Could be. Could be.
Haven't heard that in ages. Give me a little more could be. No, I mean, could really. Be. I don't know. I mean, I think there will be a trial. And McConnell could have said, let's put it off till the spring. He didn't. He only was putting it off 2 weeks, which seemed pretty reasonable to me. I think there's going to be a trial now. Trump may not put on a defense, and it's over quickly, and he's acquitted. I think that's a pretty likely outcome. He got a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you can have a lawyer and not have a defense.
Well, the guy that he got, though, defended, what's his name? What was he, a congressman or senator?
Yeah. Well, let's see how it plays out.
But I'm not speaking to it in terms of whether it does or it doesn't, but I'm seeing them using it as a manipulation to get some of what they want.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Dems, I'm not hearing what I want to hear from the Dems. I'm not.
Well, they impeached the president. That's not a small thing.
Well, at the time they impeached him, look, everybody was, it was fresh. It was, it was raw meat. You had to impeach him.
Right. I'm not disagreeing about its necessity. I'm just saying its significance should be underestimated. And, they can't throw out 100 Republicans who voted to toss the Arizona ballots. They don't have the power to, expel people unilaterally. So,
So let's talk about that for a second, because that's on my list of things to discuss, too. 147 was the exact figure who opposed certification. 3 of them right here, where I am. Scott, Mass, and what's his face in Indian River, Posey. Who that shocked me because Posey's been a longtime centrist member of the House. I mean, just whoa. You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts weekly at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. and come play with me on Twitter at Halli Show Quotes. Now, the Dems did put in an ethics probe. 7 Dems introduced an ethics probe into Halli and Ted Cruz. There got to be a lot more. Yeah. You're right. You're not going to throw out 147 Congress people. That's not going to happen. But what about Halli and Cruz? I mean, what's it called? The Never Trumpers are said they're going to get Cruz out no matter what it takes. I mean, that's their new focus. They got T out. Now they want to go for the other T. Ted Cruz.
Who is the other T? Oh, Trump. Right. Well, I didn't quite know what you were talking about.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, they can try. I don't think they will.
You don't think they're going to get Halli and Cruz out?
No.
Do you think they'll pay any price?
I wouldn't be shocked if they have primary challenges next time and lose their primary challenges or lose in the fall. But that's a ways off. I don't think they're going to get expelled from the Senate.
Wow.
I mean, they're not going to resign.
No, I don't expect them to resign. No, I agree with you. I never expect them to resign, but not even a censure and something. I mean,
no, they want to save. Democrats want to save their wrath for Al Franken. He had to go within a week. He had to go right away.
Oh my God, that may be the line of all the years you and I have been doing this. Holy crap. You're right. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I mean,
no, this to me, this has me so enraged. I'm actually thinking about doing something about this, getting something going, because I think somebody has to pay the price for what happened. Think about what happened. I mean, I don't have to convince you, but I'm talking to you guys out there in listening land. Think about this. They friggin' stormed the Capitol of the United States. They peed and crapped in the Capitol. They took Nancy Pelosi's belongings, her laptop. They beat the crap out of the police. I mean, Matt, this is like, my gosh. And everybody is just kind of let it go off into, it's like a Disney cartoon. You see like the bluebirds taking, the truth of this away out into the beautiful green forest. This is serious stuff. I just don't understand people not being enraged enough about this. If not people in, the regular American folks, but the people who swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, I don't feel they're unenraged. I mean, they are enraged, but there's limits to what they can do.
What do you mean there's limits? You can ask that other Congress people have been expelled from Congress for doing crappy, stupid ass things for less.
Right. Well, you need majorities to do them.
But the Dems have the majority.
Well, I don't. They can't. Can you expel someone with a simple majority? I don't know.
Well, that gets us to a conversation about the filibuster, which is well worth a conversation here. I'm sorry. This to me, they're letting this, the T-man Trump to flitter away, and
What I don't know what that means. His term was over. And they impeached him.
Well, yeah, but being impeached is not being convicted.
Trial.
Yes,
that's
okay.
Not flittering away.
Well, already this morning, the Republicans have said they wouldn't let you use their names, but they said they don't have the vote to convict. So, they're getting it out there that that's just not going to be something that happens.
Well, we know that about Republicans, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Republicans, many Republicans were in this piece, and they, of course, wouldn't let their names be used. But they're saying, like I said, my hope is that when everybody sees the footage put together into a documentary that's going to run, all across America, people will go, oh my gosh, and be freaked. But that said, if you keep on doing the same old thing the same old way, you're going to get the same old results. And I don't think this country moves forward unless you can somehow cut the what's off of some of these Republicans who are just out of control. That's my thought. I mean, what would you do to a kid who did something like that? If it was just a normal American who did something like that. I mean, if it was a normal American, not Ted Cruz, they would have been arrested for inciting.
Well, look, we've had this conversation so
have
many
we?
times.
I don't know whether we have.
In various forms of
right.
Why aren't the Democrats screaming? Why haven't they done this?
But this is more than the Democrats. The Republicans are just as egregious here.
Right. Well, we knew that.
I mean, let me ask you this as a political pundit and as a writer of politics, and if you were going to write a piece right now about the likes of Halli and Ted Cruz, what would be the focus of that piece? Putting you on the spot, but just think about it for a second. You got a quick mind.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to write this. I mean, I wouldn't want to write the same piece everyone else is writing, which is, they're bad and should be gone, even though that's what I think. But I don't know. I mean, it's not a terribly original sentiment, but I mean, look, I don't think they had any expectation they would overturn the election. I think they were playing to the crowd, and they thought they could screw with Biden's head and, get Biden off to a bad start, appease their base. I don't think they had any expectation that they would overturn the election. I think this whole, idea that they were supporting a commission to look into the election was a totally cynical, disgraceful move on their part. And I think they've been shocked by the whirlwind, and they think they can ride this out.
But that's the point.
Maybe they can.
That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. They always ride it out. But it's interesting to me. Do you think that they thought that this would? Do you think their intention was to get the riot, to get people ginned up, and so they didn't realize they were get people ginned up to have a big protest outside the Capitol? Yeah, right.
To have them come into the Capitol? No.
And then that happened, and they did nothing. I mean, they begged Trump to get out there and make a statement, and he made a half-hearted, which I think further ginned up what was going on. And that was under duress. And Halli and Ted Cruz are showing absolutely no remorse. In fact, are moving more and more to the right as the days go on this. This is what I'm saying. You know how they're going to play it. And this is how we got to where we are today. When they weren't stopped, when they should have been stopped, they just kept going, this is going to get me votes. This is going to keep me in power. Screw America. I'm just going to keep moving closer and further and further and further to that constituency and make the grab. Go ahead.
Okay. But in an ideal world, the Republican conference would have driven them out of office. But, we know that's not what the Republicans are willing to do. And so that's where we are,
And that is concerning because how does this get fixed? Unless at some point somebody breaks the juggernaut. And it wasn't going to be by just getting Trump out. That at least got us back to square one, which is where we were with the Freedom Caucus and the wackadoodles to begin with. So we're there. But getting us now, I know that some Dems in also, and I think it may have been a bipartisan to get Citizens United an amendment to clear that up, because I think a lot of where we're at is because of Citizens United. So they're looking for a way, but they're looking for an intellectual way, if you will, and I think the purging is going to have to be something that's very emotional, frankly, not a legislative, intellectual. Let's try cleaning it up here. Let's try cleaning it up there. So. Can we talk about the filibuster? Will you explain? Because this is the question that I'm asked more than any other question. What's the filibuster? How did it get in? And give us a quick background on that, because we're going to go into that.
Well, it's got a long history. It's not in the Constitution. So, they don't have to have it. But each chamber is allowed to set its own rules. That's in the Constitution. And the Senate borrowed from a British tradition, which meant that, if enough members of the minority gathered, they could, delay passage of a particular thing, even if they didn't have a majority. So that's, that tended to be used quite sparingly for most of the history of the Republic, but that's not the case in the last, 15 years or so, as the Republicans have used it much more promiscuously. Now, Democrats have used it too more than they used to, but McConnell and the Republicans really accelerated its use when they're in the minority, effectively requiring a lot of legislation to have 60 votes instead of 51. And so that's made it very tough for Democrat presidents to get things done. Getting rid of the filibuster is a tough thing because you got to get a lot of people on board to do that. And, the Senate's grown accustomed to it, even among people who didn't like the way McConnell used it. So that's the short version of where we're at.
And where we're at right now is that's what they're stopping Biden's appointments and all sorts of things while they argue this out, not just for power, by the way, but for, whether to end the filibuster. I think the Dems should go to the mat on this because it is the thing that stopped legislation from getting through. And in the people's best interest, let's be real, that's where we're at. My opinion, of course, but do you think that the Dems are right? Because it looks to me like they're like going right now. Now, I don't think Schumer is the strongest leader in the world. Anybody who listens to me knows that. But I think they're right to say we got to get rid of this. This is just crazy.
Well, Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, a Democrat,
my senator.
He doesn't want to get rid of it. So there you go. You don't have the votes right there.
But Joe is wishy-washy, and I've known him for a very, very, very long time. And don't ever listen to what he says at the first when he says things, because he can be persuaded. I lived in West Virginia, I don't have to tell you, for ages and ages, and he was my governor, and I knew him quite well, actually, know him quite well. When he was appointed to the Senate seat by Byrd, there were a lot of people who said, why are you appointing him? He's an idiot. Man stands for nothing.
Right.
So there was a lot of, not wanting him to be the successor to the great Robert C. Byrd. But there he is. But I can tell you from knowing him, he's coming out like gangbusters because he's loving the power he's in right now as being supposedly the centrist. But I think he can be manipulated. So I'm not worried about him. I'd like to see this happen because I think that would go a long way to breaking the juggernaut. Can I just also very quickly, I know it's off topic, but I'm going to say it. Liz Cheney, a lot of what's going to happen with the impeachment is going to be because she had the courage to stand up to them all, but she is being primaried now and she's getting beaten to a crap. And that's what the Republicans are going, if we go along with what she says, the same is going to happen to us. Just thought I'd throw that in there because I know it's.
Oh, yeah, no question. I mean, Republicans are cowed about being primaried. I mean, that's their fears. Well, that's much more about that than losing seats.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. Lisa Murkowski also, by the way, speaking of Joe, could have a big hand in all of this. I still say she should turn herself over and become a Dem. Or an independent who says, I'm going to vote with the Democrats. Get the hell out of the Republican Party. COVID, over 410,000 are dead. There is not a vaccine to be had, I know, in the state of Florida. The governor was on TV this morning on Fox News giving a vaccine to some senior citizen. It's the last one in Florida. There are none. There's no way to find out where to get a vaccine because they had a system in place. They took that out where they were going to send you a text and all. Matt, it's a nightmare. But there was Fauci this morning on TV saying, and yesterday, Trump lies cost people lives. I couldn't say what needed to be said. God bless him. He smiles when he puts the knife in.
Yeah.
Trump's own economist backs Biden's $1.9 trillion rescue plan. How you feeling about all of this?
Well, starting with COVID, it's obviously a very difficult, time. I mean, we're still in the spike, and we don't know what's going to happen with these variants of the original virus, that are more contagious than the original, and what happens with variants that have yet to happen. So, that's very worrisome. At the same time, the remarkable success of the vaccine thus far, is a very hopeful sign. I think if the distribution can be smoothed out, it's not going to be perfect, but if it can get better, that's going to make a big difference. Unfortunately, we haven't had a system like Israel, which is really, going to have everyone vaccinated pretty soon.
It's funny. I had an idea for them that I think would work better than the one that they're planning on doing. One of the problems with, first of all, there is no vaccine right now. You understand that. So a lot of people who had the shot now can't get their second shot, and that was one of the things that Fauci was kind of, putting in like, well, we don't think it's going to hurt them if they don't get it 28 days later and they go another 3 weeks. We don't think. They don't know. So, there's that. We do know that people who've only had the first vaccine contracted the virus before they had their second, and even contracted after having the second, but enough days hadn't gone by for it to do its thing. But all of that said, they ought to take the Army, and they ought to do what Jerry Brown did back in the day. It's a story of my life when our houses were sinking into the ocean in a horrible California flood thing, and he brought the National Guard in on trucks to neighborhoods. They ought to get the National Guards in cities out there on trucks, and they go door to door to give people their vaccines. That's what they ought to do. Not make senior citizens and infirm people go to places and wait on 20-mile long lines to get the vaccine, but go in community door to door. Wouldn't that be a great way to do it? It's stay-at-home day. Everybody stays at home. You get that. You'll get a call or a text. Stay home. We're coming to give you your vaccine. Comment?
Yeah.
Isn't that a good idea?
It works for me.
Yeah. Because a lot of people just don't want to go and stand on, 8-hour lines.
Yeah. Whatever the best way to get people
vaccinated. They need to get vaccinated. So, but I do think they're not thinking out of the box yet. They really, really aren't. My county in Florida is not even showing up on places you can get the vaccine right now, Matt. Think of that. Yeah. And I live in like the 6th largest area of the state of Florida. Think about it, how crazy that is. I mean, it's nuts.
No question.
Yeah. So Biden knows that he's up against the Republicans suddenly getting, religion on the deficit after all these many years because party over people. And so we don't know what's going to happen with his planned $1.9 trillion rescue. But he's taken a page out of the T-Man, and he's this morning signed an executive order, for food stamps and making it easier to get money to people, yada, yada, yada. How you feeling about him doing that? And is that the smart move at this point? And will Republicans come through to help save the people and the economy? Or they just want to trash Biden's chances?
Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah, I think he's going to want to spend, which I think is the right thing to do when the country's in this kind of shape. I don't know where the Republicans are trying to stop him. I don't think they're going to stop him on the vaccine stuff, but,
They're going to stop him on giving the $1,400 is where they're going to try and stop it and limit it. And there's not an economist that I've read who says you shouldn't do this. They all say it. Janet Yellen is like screaming, flood the zone. It's a repeat of what happened with when Obama and Biden came in.
This is kind of their thing. They like to
hamstring.
They like to spend money, and then when it's the Democrats' turn, they're like all into fiscal rectitude.
You've been around a long time. You had a birthday yesterday. You can tell us how old you are?
No. No.
But you've been around a long time. The quality of our quote unquote leaders right now. And I'm not even talking Biden, but in the House, in the Senate, as compared to when you first came into this town, and how do you see it? Is the problem the quality of people who are getting into Congress?
Well, it's a complicated question. I think, there's a natural tendency to sort of, romanticize the past and, think the people who were around before you were better. But I do think there are things that are making it harder to get things done. The power of all these groups in the primaries, I think, has pushed, people to the left and right. And I do think Trump enabled a lot of, bad actors. In general, I do think there are some worse people, but it's more that the system is worse.
Yeah, I think the system is worse. That's why
the system is not geared to produce.
Statespeople.
Bob Dole could be a prick, but he reflexively blocked a lot of Clinton things when he could. But at the end of the day, he wanted this government to work, and we're producing more Josh Hawleys than Bob Doles.
Yeah, and that's why I said the Citizens United thing is a big part of that because of the dark money and the corporate money. But hey, the corporations are coming through. They're doing more than Nancy Pelosi's doing now. They're cutting the Republicans down on the knees. Withdrawing.
It's like a fourth branch of government.
Yeah, and it's somebody had to do it. If the government itself couldn't do it, I just want to put this down. We don't even have to comment if you don't want, but real quick, we'll always have Bernie in the mittens. God,
I gotta say,
he's adorable.
It was a great moment. Bernie's riding high.
He is maybe one of the cutest things ever in the history of the world. He really is. NRA declared bankruptcy, and they're moving to Texas. There wasn't a lot of talk about that.
It was a very Trump era thing, right? It was a bunch of grifters who've been ripping off their members and, taking for themselves. And they have all this money, and they're still bankrupt. And, Wayne LaPierre with his
$1 billion suits.
His $1 billion suits, idiot. And,
Claudia Conway drama.
Well, I don't want to get into it.
I just wanted to mention it because it needs to be mentioned, and it goes hand in hand with a lot of the other crap that was going on. So I did want to say that. We got a bunch of Looney Tunes in Congress who need to get out. One who just impeached Biden, or trying to impeach Biden before he...
Oh, well, the Q lady, Marjorie.
Yeah. She's got to go. And goodbye.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, well, I know. And that other one is pretty weird too. The
Bowler.
Yeah. Where do these people come from? Okay. So as we say goodbye this week, I want to ask you this: put on your Carmack the Magnificent hat.
It's on.
What happens to Trump? Does he go into the good night? Does he quickly become yesterday's news once the impeachment thing is done? Yada yada yada. What are you saying? What are you feeling? Is he going to play golf for the rest of his life and that's it?
No, somewhere between silence and, a huge comeback.
Wow.
I think he's going to be out there.
Even with this business being in shambles and Florida banks taking his money away and Deutsche Bank taking his money away and corporations not letting the golf courses survive because they won't give them any tournaments anymore. And
yeah, no, I hear you. Well, let's see how it plays out.
And New York SD.
I don't think there's going to be as much incentive for the criminal prosecutions as.
Whoa, really?
I just don't think you're going to keep 60 attorneys on it. 6-8 months from now. Maybe.
Mm.
I mean, I will bet money he never goes to jail.
I
mean, that's never going to happen. I shouldn't say never, but I don't think it'll happen.
Okay, folks. He left me speechless. My friend Matt left me speechless. Good night. Goodbye.
Good night. All right.
See you
there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.